You are listening to Torah with Simcha. Good to moed. We had quite an amazing yontif with this Dvar Torah. We're going to say it in its entirety. The temperature here in the Sukkah, 65 degrees, and it's 10 o'clock at night. Temperatures went into the 80s today here in Chicago. Quite a warm day for October 21st. We're in the year 2024, 5785. Tonight's the fourth night of Chol moed. Tomorrow night is Hoshana Rabbah. We'll say some words on Hoshana Rabbah too. Towards the end of Yom Kippur, we lane by Mincha two interesting lanings. One of them comes from Parshas Achrei Mos. It's the last aliyah, the last two aliyahs, I believe, of Achrei Mos. It speaks about all of the prohibited relationships. And the other one is the Haftorah, which is Sefer Yona. And if you were to ask people, why do we lane these things on Yom Kippur, the answers you'll be given are answers which are connected to the day of Yom Kippur. Very much connected to the day of Yom Kippur. Sefer Yona, it's supposed to be an inspiration, an inspirational story regarding tshuva. Because we know that HaKadosh Baruch Hu told him to go to Nineveh and tell Nineveh that you're going to be destroyed. Nineveh decided to do tshuva. Yona knew from the beginning that they would do tshuva. So he didn't want to go, but he went, and then eventually he went, and Nineveh did tshuva, and they were not destroyed. This is an inspirational story about tshuva, so people will say that, therefore, we do the Haftorah of Sefer Yona.
If you didn't do that kind of tshuva that Nineveh did, then they will get punished. But
right.
Nineveh all us to do was so used to doing tshuva, was doing the virus. At least they should do most of the tshuva. The Yidden aren't like that.
So if what Dovi's saying is true, that if Yidden were to do the level of tshuva that Nineveh did, it wouldn't really do us any good because Nineveh was still doing Avodah Zarah. So if that's true, so then it kind of waters down the inspiration, the tshuva inspiration from Nineveh. Maybe HaKadosh Baruch Hu would be very happy if the Yidden did whatever level of tshuva we do, maybe Hashem is happy. But the bigger question over here is that if Sefer Yona is telling us a message that was meant for Yom Kippur, why would Chazal place the laning of this at the very end of Yom Kippur? One would think this should be said at the very beginning of Yom Kippur. Additionally, if the Kriya of Lo Sikravu, like a Lo Serva, all of those, that whole parsha at the end of Achrei Mos, all the Gilui Arayos, if that's meant for Yom Kippur, how come the trop is not a Yomim Noraim trop? The trop is just a regular trop. So I wanted to suggest that perhaps, of course, it is meant for Yom Kippur, but at the same time, these things are also messages for us into Succos. This is the Torah reading, the Kriyas HaTorah, the very last Kriyas HaTorah we're going to hear before Succos. It's just 4 days before Succos. I mean, technically, I guess you have the Monday, Thursday morning Kriyas HaTorah. But Yom Kippur, this is when the masses are gathered in Chol. Kodesh Baruch Hu wants us to hear the Haftorah of Yona and the Gilui Arayos Parsha from Achrei Mos a mere 4 days before Sukkot. And the question is why? Could there be a connection between Yona and Sukkot? So we wanted to say that there's no question that there is a connection. Now, how do we know? Because there's not too many Sfarim in Tanakh that have the word Sukkah in it. And it's just interesting that the Haftorah that we read right before Sukkot has the word Sukkah in it. And nothing is without reason. Of course, there's nothing really so significant about just Sukkah, other than the word Sukkah appears right before the holiday of Sukkot. But there is a connection between the two. And I think perhaps what it's telling us is like this. We know that Rosh Hashanah is a Yom Hadin for Tzaddikim. And we know that Yom Kippur was the Yom Hadin for Beinanim. And some people are Zoicha to have a good year. They ended up becoming Tzaddikim. Some people ended up becoming Tzaddikim during a Seres Yemei Tshuva. And some people remained as a Beinani during a Seres Yemei Tshuva. But then we have the holiday of Sukkos. And most people will tell you that Sukkos is something which comes after Yom Kippur, because you can't have Simcha without forgiveness, without a Mechilas of Avonos, without forgiveness of Averos, there cannot be Simcha. And furthermore, if a person has Averos, how could they be B'Simcha? The Torah says, B'Samachta B'Chogecha. It says also that this is a Zman Simcha Seinu. How could the Torah require us to be B'Simcha if we still have Averos? And there are those that say that the reason why we have the mitzvah to put up a sukkah, and there's only 4 days between Yom Kippur and Sukkot, is so that we won't have any time to do the Averos. So it's going to be a genuine time of Simcha. But I wanted to suggest the exact opposite. The approach to the exact opposite, and they both could be true. What's actually going on is like this. You know, the tzaddikim, they don't need sukkahs. If you don't have any averos, how could you not be b'simcha? You don't need a sukkah to be b'simcha. You don't need anything to be b'simcha. You have no averos. You don't need to put up a sukkah either. But putting up the sukkah, that mitzvah, putting up the sukkah, keeping us busy, that's great for the tzaddik. For the tzaddik, that's going to prevent him from getting into trouble. But for the Rasha, for someone who's already attached to an Avera, or attached to more than one Avera, they're going to find plenty times to do Averos, even in those 4 days. There's never a shortage of time on doing Averos when it comes to the Yetzer Hara. The Yetzer Hara will always find time to do an Avera. There's no such thing as you're too busy putting up the sukkah, and you don't have time to do there's 24 hours in the day. The Yetzer Hara will find time to do an Avera. So, we go into Sukkos, and Sukkos is a yontif for the Rasha. It's a yontif for all the Yom Tovim are for the Tzaddikim and the Beinanim. But Sukkos, especially Sukkos, is a yontif made for the Rasha. It's the one time the Rasha gets a chance to feel what it's like to have a relationship with Hashem, to be able to sit in the sukkah and to be able to feel that his tefillah will be accepted. Hashem's listening to his tefillah. Because you have to realize, if he's in a sukkah, he's being surrounded with a mitzvah. He is in a mitzvah cloud, so to speak. He's in a cloud of mitzvah, protecting him. It's manish like in a nane hakavod. He could be the biggest Rasha. But while he's involved in a mitzvah, just like by Hadlakas Neros, it's the same thing. We tell people daven. It's an ace ratzon for davening. It's an opportune time for davening when a person's lighting Shabbos candles, Hanukkah candles. It's the same thing. There's a story they said in Russia, a certain Yid who was a Moser, a very high level of riches, would get Jews in trouble with the government. So people went to a certain Hasidic Rebbe and they said, could you please put a curse on that Moser? The Rebbe said, sure. And then he said he tried, but he couldn't. He could tell. He was able to tell that he wasn't able to put a curse on him. And he said, go and ask him, what was he doing yesterday, 5:45 p.m.? He must have been doing something special, because that's when I tried to put the curse and I wasn't able to. So they asked him what he was doing, and he said he was lighting his Hanukkah menorah. This guy was a Rasha, but he was involved in a mitzvah at the time, so he was protected. During that time that he's involved in the mitzvah, he's protected. Comes Yom Kippur. Some of us are like Yona voyage number 1. Some of us are being sealed, Rahman al-Islam, sealed for Misa. For Misa, we think we had it all figured out. We think we had it right. And by the way, Yona thought he had it right too. Yona actually thought that Hashem wanted him to ignore him. We saw that this year. That's what Yona thought. Yona, right. Right, Yona thought maybe this whole thing was a test. Am I going to listen to Hashem, or am I going to care more about the Jewish people? Oh, we see I passed the test. I care more about the Jewish people. How do we know? Because here's a boat. There's a boat coming up. I have the exact amount of money needed to get onto it. Hashem's mamish helping me run away. Hashem's helping me run away. Yona thought this is what the Ratzon Hashem was. Many of us make the same cheshbonos. How are we to know? So comes Yom Kippur. We're like Yona on that boat. Yom Kippur ends. There's the Chasimas Hadin of Misa. On some level, Misa. For Yona, Misa. He's thrown into the ocean. He's thrown into the ocean. And B'derech HaTeva, he's gone. He's dead. So what does Hashem do? So people say a whale. I was told this past Shabbos that it's a fish. A big fish and not a whale. Okay? So
it's a big fish.
And then there was another one.
It was a big fish that the next day we were going to get there would be a second.
Alright, so a fish swallows him up, then also spit out and put into a different fish. By the time he got into fish number 2, there's no question, he spent his time davening to Hashem to get him out of there and to give him a second chance. It was very...
The first one was either was a male, the second one was a female, so it had babies.
So the second one, it was a female that had babies, and there wasn't much room for Yona. So he spent his time davening. Hashem listened.
I learned that it was a fit in kindergarten, nursery. I learned that it was a big fish and then it's a small fish.
So he spent his time davening to Hashem to give him the second chance. And that's kind of like what we have. In that fish, it was just Yona and Hashem. That's all there was. Hashem, right after Yom Kippur, some of us perhaps didn't make it. Even after Aser Simei Tshuva. Because, for some of us, Aser Simei Tshuva isn't good enough. So Hashem brings the Sukkah. It's commonly said, and Rabbi Ephraim Waxman starts off like this many times when he speaks about Hanukkah. There's a mission that says that the wicks that are puzzle for Shabbos are kosher for Hanukkah. And he says it's the lights, certain lights. He says it means something in Ruchnius too. There's a certain inspiration that Hanukkah can give to the neshama that even Shabbos can't do. Shabbos can't do it. And that's why you'll find many times in some of these yeshivas in Eretz Yisrael, Bachrim who go there, sometimes they're a little bit off the derech, but the yeshiva makes a rule, those who haven't changed by Hanukkah can't continue. But by Hanukkah, you'll see people start to completely change. And there's a very strong connection between Succos and Hanukkah, as the Aruch HaShulchan explains. The Aruch HaShulchan explains that actually the real yontif of Hanukkah was actually because of a Sukkos that was bottled. What actually happened, Chazal wanted to make an 8-day holiday. Not because the oil burnt for 8 days. That's not why. They wanted to make an 8-day holiday because that year, the Greeks, I guess, they were mevatel us from bringing 8 days worth of karbanos to the Beis HaMikdash. The whole Sukkah holiday, all of those 8 days were bottled. So Chazal wanted, the moment we get the Beis HaMikdash back, they said we're going to make an 8-day holiday to bring back all of those karbanos. The only problem was they weren't sure whether they really should do it or not. They didn't know. But then when the nace of the oil happened, that was like a siman min shemayim that they should do it. So everyone thinks the Hanukkah is there because of the oil. A miracle happened, and the lights stayed lit for 8 days in the base of the Mikdash. We had enough oil to last 8 days. It's true that the miracle was more like a siman, though. It was a siman to Chazal that they should go ahead and make this 8-day holiday. But Hanukkah, we see, is really a powerhouse yontif when it comes to inspiring the neshama, and it's connected to Sukkos. Sukkos has something that Aseret Tshuva doesn't have. And I don't really think Hanukkah has it either. But Sukkos has the sukkah. We don't have anything like this, where you could literally spend every moment of your day and night in a mitzvah, involved in a mitzvah. You could just sit and do nothing, and you're in a sukkah. You could be a Rasha. You could be anyone you want. There's certain tefillos that perhaps Hashem wouldn't listen to you even during his Aseret Tshuva. Maybe a person couldn't even daven so well. But I was thinking, but in a sukkah, we're told Hashem knows who you really are and what you really want. The Rambam tells us that if a husband and wife, if they're meant to get divorced and he doesn't give her a get, so Beis Din goes and they hit him until he gives her a get. And the question is, how could such a get be good? We're told that you're not allowed to force someone to give a get. So the Rambam says he's not being forced to give a get. Really, he wants to do the Ratzon Hashem. And the Ratzon Hashem in this case is for him to give a get. It's a microphone. But by hitting him, you're hitting his Yetzer Hara out of him. The Yetzer Hara is interfering. The Yetzer Hara is interfering, but his real self wants to give the get. A lot of times we're so caught up in our Yetzer Haras, we don't even know what we really want. So our davening isn't even us. We're davening for what we think we want. But Hashem knows what we really want, what's genuinely good for us, and what we think is good for us might not be what Hashem thinks is good for us. That's the Mila of Sukkos, is that when just by being in the Sukkah, Hashem is listening to us, even if we're not davening, even by not davening, but just Hashem sees what we are yearning for. When the Yidden were in Mitzrayim, they did not daven. It says Hashem heard their cries and heard their groans, and he decided to redeem them. He didn't hear their tefillas. They weren't davening. But that was like a tefillah. So there's some people are davening over Sukkos, some people are tzaddikim, some people are beinim, but Sukkos includes everyone. How do we know this? You take a look at the lulav, the esrog, the aravos, the adasim. Everybody knows it includes everyone. Just no one ever takes it this far. You say, oh, what does it do? You have the lulav, the aravos comes to include yidden that have no mitzvos and no Torah. Okay, the adasim are people that have mitzvos, have Torah, they have taste and it has tam, has smell. The esrog has taste and smell. So it's people who have mitzvahs and Torah. And then each one of the four species represents a different type of yid. So the aravos is the people who have no Torah and they have no mitzvahs. So you could say, well, what is there for them on this yontif? So the answer is everything. Pesach, I don't know what Pesach has to offer. Pesach might be more of a struggle. All you have for Pesach is that fourth child, the Rasha or the She'ini Yudei Lishol. Okay, he comes to the Seder, so he has a Seder. But on Sukkot, he could just sleep in the Sukkah. But you know that movie Ushpizin? In the movie Ushpizin, you have those two guys that were released from jail. They know nothing about Yiddishkeit. But they lived in a sukkah for the whole sukkah, and they ended up completely different people by the end of the movie. They came into a sukkah, they lived in the sukkah. That's all you needed to do. It's just come into the sukkah, live in the sukkah. Hoshana Rabbah is like that day when Hashem's giving Yona that second chance. So come to Hoshana Rabbah, and Hoshana Rabbah is we're still doing tshuva. Sukkos is in a certain way more powerful than Aseres Yemei Tshuva, and Hoshana Rabbah is the most awesome of all of the Yom Hadins. And you see this in the Tefillah. You have to realize that we're not allowed to daven for ourselves really on Yom Tov or Shabbos, especially not Shabbos. If you look at all the tefillos of Rosh Hashanah, you would basically not even know that it's a day of judgment. It's barely there. It's a day of Malchus. It's really a day of declaring the kingship of Hashem. If you look on Yom Kippur, it's a day of Mechilas Avonos. There's a little bit of a Yehi Ratzon here and there to daven for a good year. But on Hoshana Rabbah, it's everything. Hoshana Rabbah includes, you look at all the Hoshanas, it includes everything you could possibly think of, even the strangest stuff in the world. You'll see, look at the Hoshana, go to the Art Scroll Hoshanas, look at what we're davening for. Say things you can't even imagine. I can't even think of them right now. Joby, what are some things davening for the Hoshanas? Rocks and sand and you could tell this, if someone told you this is a day of judgment, it's very easy to believe it, because we're davening for every little thing, stuff that you would think would be on Rosh Hashanah. This should be in the machzor of Rosh Hashanah, but it's not. Maybe Yom Kippur, but it's not. It's not because there's another theme on Rosh Hashanah, that's Malchus. Malchus is more important. Yom Kippur, Mechilas Avonos, that's more important. Hoshana Rabbah is called the day of great salvation. Tefillah, we can go bonkers on Tefillah on Hoshana Rabbah. There's nothing holding us back. Right. There's nothing holding. It's not Yom Tov, it's not Shabbos. We're allowed to daven all we want on Hoshana Rabbah. Furthermore, we're davening while carrying the Hoshanas. We're doing a mitzvah of Lulav and Esrog. It's the day of the final seal. There's a lot of spooky stuff that's said regarding Hoshana Rabbah night, which is tomorrow night, which I don't know much about. If you look at your shadow, you can tell what type of year you're going to have and stuff like that. If you look at your shadow in the middle of the night, if you don't see your head in the shadow, it means you're not going to live the year. But you also have to be dressed in a certain way to do it. So there's a lot of interesting stuff. A lot of people have the minhag to stay up all night on Hoshana Rabbah night. Succos is a yontif of v'samachta b'chalgecha, even if you have averos. It's not, you can only be happy if you have. The problem with that, if you say you can only be happy if there's a mechilas of avonos, so what about all the people who did averos between Yom Kippur and Succos? They also have a chiyuv. They're obligated to be happy too. And they have to be happy every second. So Hashem, in His chesed, He gave us the mitzvah of sukkah. There's no other yontiv which has something like that, and that's how serious the simcha has to be on Succos. It has to be, even if you have averos, no matter what, you have to experience that ruchnius tikahai, which happens in the sukkah. All right, now, the one last point over here. There's a Ramosha Wolfson. And Ramosha Wolfson, I don't know how he extracts all of this out 100%, but if you look at the parshas that we lay in the month of Elul, you'll see it's 4 parshas. We have Vayelech Netzavim Azinu. It's also Kisavo. You don't have to have Kisavo here, but you could if you want. One parsha has 30 psukim. One parsha has 40 psukim. One parsha has 52 psukim. And Kisavo has 122 psukim. But you don't have to come on to Kisavo, because if you add 30 plus 40 plus 52, that's also 122. But either way, these are the important numbers to remember over here. 30, 40, 52, and 122. And now here we go. the first of Elul, that's our starting base. 30 days after the first of Elul is a special day. 40 days after the first of Elul is a special day. 52 days after the first of Elul is a special day. And 122 days after the first of Elul is a special day. What do all these days have in common? They're all a Yom Hadin. So 30 days after the first of Elul, we know that's Rosh Hashanah. That's a Yom Hadin for Tzadikim, and actually Rishayim too. But we're going to say Tzadikim. 40 days after the first of Elul, that's Yom Kippur. That's a Yom Hadin. 52 days after the first of Elul is Hoshana Rabbah. And 122 days after the first of Elul is Zos Chanukah. That's the last day of Chanukah, in which it has become well known amongst Hasidic circles that that's the final Yom Hadin, that's the final Chasima. Hashem waits to that final day to see if there's been tshuva. Some want to say that sometimes a person can get caught up in certain negative behaviors that it could really take 90 days to change. It takes like 90 days to change a behavior. Some people might say 40 days. Some say 90. But what you also have to realize is that regarding a person's status, of whether they're a Rasha or a Tzaddik, that status is made in a second. It doesn't take 90 days to change from a Rasha to a Tzaddik. It takes 90 days to change the behavior. But to go from a Rasha to a Tzaddik takes 1 second. And how do we know this? It's from the Gemara in Kedushin, where the Gemara discusses the case where a person was a Rasha, and a girl would consider marrying him, except she said she doesn't marry someone who's a Rasha. So he said, would you marry me on condition that I'm a Tzaddik Gamor? And the Gemara says that if she says yes, marry me on condition that I'm a Tzaddik Gamor, according to the Rabbi Avigdor Miller sheet that I was reading about the Gemara, the marriage is a good marriage. I would think it means it's a suffix, but Bikudeshes, because the Gemara says, Shema Mahar Tshuva. Maybe he had thoughts of Tshuva. And if he had thoughts of Tshuva, he's not just a tzaddik, he's a tzaddik gamor. That's what he is. He's a tzaddik gamor. So Rabbi Avigdor Miller explains it very nicely in the sheets that some of these shuls put out. Regarding kapara, that is something he'll have to get down the road. He'll have to fix up all the things he did wrong. There might be pain, there might be suffering. That's something down the road. But regarding his status, he's now a tzaddik. A second ago he was a rasha, now he's a tzaddik. And that's also true for davening for the Amid, by the way. I think that Gemara is most important for people who daven for the Amid. Because now that you know that your status could be changed in a second, so it's very important that before a person davens for the Amid, they're representing the Tzibor, if a person's able to bring himself to do tshuva on whatever level, it would be kedai. It would always be kedai to have a tzaddik being the chazan. The chazan could be a tzaddik that's going to be much better for the tzibor, especially for the Yom Neraim, but even the rest of the year. So if a person could change their status just like that, in the sheets that are given out, it says something even from the Chavetz Chaim, something like that. At least that's how it was interpreted, that the person could change his status in just a second, right before he goes up to daven for the Amid. We hear the dogs barking. The temperature remains at 65. Thank you for listening. I wish everybody a guten moed, and may we be zoiche to have a gewaltige year, a gemar chesima tova, and utilize the zman appropriately, especially You are listening to a podcast called Torah with Simcha.